Welcome to Breadcrumbs to Blueprints and the What's Your Superpower series. Today I have the lovely Alyssia with us. Welcome to the show.
Thanks Natalie, thank you for having me. It's an honour.
So tell us, what is your superpower?
Where do I start? I've got lots of different types of abilities which I'm still generally trying to understand and learn and grow with, but I guess if you want to put a summary around it, you could say psychic, medium, channeler.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you do lots of things. I know that you're quite amazing actually. You can see spirit because I know you've seen one in my house.
Yeah.
You can do psychic healing where you can feel energy blocks in people's bodies. Yeah.
Yes.
What else can you do? You get channeled messages.
Yeah, I do. I'm constantly getting messages from source. I see, hear, feel, know things. So I've got all the different abilities.
All the different clairs.
Yeah, and which one's going to come through, I never know. It's just kind of go with the flow as it happens. So
what do you do with this ability?
Yeah, so I'm a healer. I also do healings and readings for people, do house clearings as well.
Tell us about the healings you do for people.
Yes.
What type of things do you heal?
So I do lots of energy healing. So my base was Reiki. That's how I started doing what I do now. But I also focus a lot on past life healing and releasing karmic situations and ties for people. And energy blockages as well.
Okay, interesting. And when did you know that you had this ability? Were you just born with it, or how did that all happen?
Yeah, so, well, I think as a child I was always very sensitive, always told that I was oversensitive and overthought things, etc. But what I guess I didn't realise was I was actually able to read other people's energy, and I had no idea what I was doing. I just knew that I would feel everything so deeply. And so being a very, very sensitive child with a lack of support in that, area, I tend to kind of shut down a lot of my abilities, I believe, as a child. I do have a couple of specific moments that I can recall now as an adult, which I guess you could say was the start of me discovering who I was. Mm-hmm. I'd say probably my earliest memory was actually of my grandmother. It wasn't my psychic abilities, but it was her abilities to predict the future and what was happening. When I was about 3, I recall playing doctors with her, and she looked at me and she said, "Do you know that I'm going to pass soon?" And as a 3-year-old, obviously this upset me quite a bit. Mm-hmm. So I had gone to my parents at the time and let them know that, Grandma said she's not going to, be here much longer. To which I think at that point they thought I had made it up.
Because that's a
huge
concept for a 3-year-old to understand as well, but somehow you understood that.
Yeah, I did. But my parents thought I had just made it up and said something quite nasty. So I remember getting quite in a bit of trouble for that at that time. But, as it played out, 3 days later, she slipped into a coma after a stroke and passed away. Dad has told me, as I've grown up, that she was very in tune in that as well. So I kind of feel like that experience really shut me down from exploring my abilities as a child. After that, my next earliest memory was travelling with my dad on Kangaroo Island, and I think I must have been about 10 at the time. And he was a sales representative, so we'd go to different businesses and sell what he was selling or deliver what they required. Mm-hmm. And I remember driving in the car and I got an image in my mind of the next place that we went to, that the owner was going to give me a free ice cream.
Whoa.
And, as a kid, I was like, well, this is awesome. I hope it happens. And I remember walking into this shop, and the owner came and said, "Come here." He took me and my dad all the way down, the back hallway into the front of the shop where they would sell their ice creams. Mm-hmm. And he said, "You can pick one out. It's on me." And I remember just sort of being a little bit dumbfounded, like I knew that was going to happen.
Right.
And I remember telling my dad in the car, and I think he was just kind of scratching his head, not quite sure what to think of it at the time. So, and then after that, my next biggest memory was probably when I was about 16. I came home from a night out with friends, and my older siblings were out that night, and it was just me and my parents, and it must have been about 12 o'clock at night, and I just had this overwhelming feeling that somebody was going to break in to the house, and my parents were just kind of like, oh, whatever, like just go to bed. And I
So you told everybody?
Yeah, I told them.
Yeah.
They were just dismissed me, and I was like, no, I know, like I've just got this this feeling. And sure thing, I sat in the front lounge, and back then it was the computers, and I was playing solitaires. We didn't have all the fancy games that we've got now. And I was playing it, and then I heard this car pull up, and I peeked out the window, and next thing I saw 3 guys hopping out the car. And where my parents lived, we were right next to a reserve, so it was a very quiet area. So to hear a car come around at 1 a.m. in the morning would
stand out.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And they started walking up the reserve next to my parents' house, and I woke my parents up, and they just sort of looked at me, and then they proceeded to break into my brother's car and stole I think it was tyres and petrol or something at that point. And I think again, my parents were just kind of looking at me like.
So his car was in a garage or parked in the front?
No, it was
in the
parked
driveway,
on the side. Like we had a side driveway that was next to the reserve.
Oh,
so,
really?
But it was just this underlying
just
feeling of just knowing that something was going to happen. And then after that,
and did your parents after that go, this is uncanny? How did you know
yeah,
that?
I think they were just sort of in disbelief, and probably there's still, I guess, maybe a sense of being dismissed. So
that happens, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
Something's unexplainable.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I just don't know where to go with that. So we just put it shove it under the
yeah,
carpet.
pretty much. And I think because I was such a sensitive child, I wasn't very often understood, or because they didn't know. It wasn't that they were doing it intentionally. It's that they didn't know that what I was often feeling was not just somebody's emotions, but what people were showing me. Face value. I was feeling the things that were underlying the face value of what people were showing me. So, growing up, if somebody would tell me one thing, but I knew that's not what they truly felt, or what was going on, underneath, I was feeling the emotions tied to that, which to other people not understanding that, they would think that I was overreacting about things. So,
yes.
So
has the gift of having that ability, we do think there's always, they say 2 sides to a coin, but these days I say there's many facets to a diamond, because there's more than 1 or 2 ways of looking at things. So in this situation, let's look at it like this, as a blanket question. Has it been a curse or a blessing?
It's been both.
It's been both. Yeah.
And I think anybody that's tapped into their natural abilities will tell you that, sometimes it's hard to know things that, hard to know what's at the base of something when other people can't see it, or trying to explain that to somebody that doesn't understand what you're saying, because they're only looking at the 3rd dimension. They're only looking at face value. But I do see it more as a blessing now, because I've been able to heal myself, to help my children, and to help others, discover their, as your beautiful book says, hidden potential.
Thank you. So how do you, let's go into that a bit more. So how do you help people? So the healing, you discover the blocks, just guide us through sort of how you use your ability, and because it might inspire other people of perhaps this is something innate in them, or something that they're just discovering about themselves. Because when you're in your own body and you're living your own life, we don't have a comparison in there in our thoughts, and I guess we can make comparisons, but when you're in your own head and in your own body, you don't know that you perhaps can have or do this ability that somebody else can't do. And perhaps by listening to this, somebody's going, I can do that too. I can feel into those deeper emotions to somebody. So does that mean I can actually do something with this? Is this, can I turn up the volume to this? How can I help other people? So what have you done with your gift?
Absolutely. So for quite a while there, I don't think I realised it was a gift. It was only when I discovered Reiki that I started working with energy, and I discovered that I was able to read people's emotions. I didn't realise I was doing it before this. So when I did my very first Reiki course, when we got to the healing part and we started healing, I remember the teacher I had at the time, I said to her, oh, you've got something going on in the middle of your back, like, you know, there's a blockage there. And she just kind of looked at me dumbfounded, and she's like, yeah, I've got scoliosis right in that spot. How on earth did you know that? And I'm like, I literally have no idea. But that really awoken within me that I did have a gift. And, you know, what can I tell other people would be to trust what you feel, what you see. Don't judge what's coming through. Those, you know, those instincts are, the first instincts are always right. You know, it's.
I love that you've said that.
Your gut feeling, 100%. You know, you're not crazy when you see, hear, feel, think things. Particularly, I get a lot of messages from spirit where it's my voice, but it's not coming from me. It's coming from source.
So you actually hear a voice that's clear.
Yeah,
not just the feeling.
No. I get both.
Yeah,
so
you get everything.
I get everything.
You get the voices.
And I just never know which one's going to come through. But, you know, it'll be random messages like, I'm trying to think of an example. You know, don't go that way home. Something like that. And you'll be like, okay. And then you go the other way. Sometimes I don't know why, but sometimes I do. But it's trusting. Trust is a huge thing, and I think that was one of my biggest lessons of trusting.
Trusting what comes through, trusting that gut feeling, that first thought, if you like, if we're going to label it a thought.
Yes, absolutely.
It's really a download or a hit, isn't it?
It is,
From
yes.
something greater than us.
Download, yes, absolutely. And I think for me, becoming a mother really changed and opened me up even more. Like, I really believe, I call them the new kids. The new ones coming through, they really awakened me. So in a sense, I feel like they brought through that next level of understanding of who I was. I think it's no mistake, the children that choose to come to be with us, just like we would have chose our own parents as well, for various reasons. So my kids have been my biggest blessing in the sense, you know, of understanding who I am. Yeah, so, and that started quite a few years before I even had my children as well. So I had a dream probably about 7 years before my son came through, and I could see this baby boy, and he had blue eyes and blonde hair. I love how you say before my son came through.
Yeah,
he came to this earth side. Yeah, so I'd had a dream and I saw him clear as day. I could tell you what he looked like. I even created a character on our Wii machine, which was him, and we laugh at it
like
still
the
to
little
this day.
avatars when you play games.
Yeah, we called him Beanos. And we had the blue eyes, blonde hair, and if you look at me, like, how would I have a blue-eyed, blonde-hair baby?
Right.
My husband's got brown hair, blue eyes, but
okay.
I could see him as clear as day, and I feel like that was starting to awaken me. Then when we did get pregnant, just before we got pregnant, we tried for quite some time, and I recall having a dream one night, and this little girl, she was African, she came to me in a dream. And there's a shop in Adelaide, a spiritual shop, which I really absolutely loved. It's moved now, but I had a dream in this shop, and this little African girl took me over to a stand of cards in the shop. And she said, pick that card up there. And I picked up the card, and it said, congratulations, you've got a baby boy. And I was like, okay, like, does this mean that I'm finally getting, you know, my child? And she said, yes, it's a gift from a man on the other side. And I was like, okay. And she said, yes, it was Grandpa, my partner's grandpa. It was a gift from him. And I said, okay. And I remember thinking at the time, like, was that real? Did that really happen? And I recall talking to a cousin like the day after. It must have just been just before Christmas, and she was like, "Oh, that's so exciting! I bet you're going to be pregnant this month." And sure thing, I was pregnant.
What a beautiful story!
Yeah,
that's just stunning.
It was just amazing.
Wow.
So, had my son, funnily enough, on my grandmother's birthday, the one that had passed when I was 3. So again, synchronicity. Can't write this stuff. And it wasn't until my son was about 3 he started to bring through messages, and I, started to sort of reawaken a bit more about, the other side and feelings and senses. And I remember him one day talking about his past life, and he was telling me how in his past life he was from South Africa, and as a 3-year-old, how did he know where South Africa was? Like, it just wasn't.
I've heard of these stories before because they're closer to the other side, and their memories are still there.
100%.
And then around 2.5, 3.5, they go.
Yeah.
Would you agree with that? Like, is that I guess it varies for every child.
He's still got intuition now as a 13-year-old, but it's not as...
Meaning those past life memories
stories,
and the links to the past.
Yes, 100%, yeah. And obviously my ears pricked up, and I went, okay. And so I wanted to know more. And at the time, the reason it alerted that we actually started this conversation was he was in the lounge room and he was pretending to fight with people, and I just stopped and I was like, where did you learn that? It was just not something that he would have seen on TV or anyone that he was around. And he said, I haven't learned it from anywhere, Mummy. And I said, okay, well, where did you see? And he said, in Heady eye. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, when I go to sleep, I see it in my head. And he said, it was me before I was, and he said his name, and he said, it was me in my past life. My name was Ova, and I was from South Africa. And I was like, okay, tell me more.
Incredible.
It was incredible.
Tell me more.
And he said, I died. There was 2 men in the middle of a circle and they were fighting, and we were all standing around the circle, and I got killed. And then he started doing some tribal dance. I wish I had this on film. Because
Sorry, how old was he?
He was 3. He started saying we were all around the circle dancing, and I was just like, oh my goodness. Then he told me how he passed away, and he said, in his words at that time, he goes, and then I got whooshed up. And I was like, what do you mean you got whooshed up? He goes, I got whooshed up, and there was these really big tall people above, and they, talked to me, and then I got whooshed into your tummy. And I was like, okay. And then what was actually really interesting was after that, and I only put this together probably a couple of years ago, I'd remembered that original situation when I was pregnant with him with the little African girl.
Oh, yes. Ties together.
Yes. And I just, my jaw just hit the ground. I was like, I can't write this. There's something more going on. So for me, it was, kids coming in, reminding me of that there is so much more out there. Another situation with my son around that age was my brother and I one day were showing him a picture of a nana, which is grandpa, Maltese heritage. And in this particular picture, he had a hat on. And I kind of felt that Nunnal had been around. And I said to him, oh, have you seen Nunnal? And he's just looking at us. He sort of smiled and he said, yes, but Nunnal doesn't wear a hat. And I said, okay, maybe he didn't have a hat on, And he goes, and his name's not Nunnal, it's Anthony. And we just went, oh my goodness, because we've never referred to him from his name before. So, it was just another mind-blowing moment. And then, it was really sparking me to trust myself with my feelings. And
I was just going to say that. We're so in tune. I was just going to say that because the stories you're telling me is literally you're following the breadcrumbs, whether they're your
100%.
story or through your children
Yeah.
leaving breadcrumbs for you to going, there's more
Absolutely.
to us. And it allowed you to reflect on yourself and reflect back over those breadcrumbs, even the past ones, to discover who you truly are and to trust then.
Yes, trust, absolutely.
Trust in yourself and go with the flow with that. Yeah.
Absolutely, and you're correct. It was like breadcrumbs. It was just situation after situation. And then I started to become more in tune with myself, you know. He was teaching me about me and, you know, to listen to those voices that I was, you know, hearing voices or, you know, in a dialogue or things that were coming through that I couldn't explain. And then you know, there was other situations that would come through. And this was even before my Reiki journey. For me, it was the Reiki that, I guess, opened up the channels further. And that's, you know, what
so
Reiki,
with your gifts, you started with the energetic healing. And then it grew from there.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because you can read tarot, is that right?
More so just oracle cards, and I've
never
done a course or anything. I just look at the card and then the messages come through. Yeah.
So it's
intuitive.
And that's the thing with the cards too. They really are a tool.
Absolutely.
For I love it when people read cards just from the psychic hits they get, because I think it's more free flowing.
Yes.
Yeah, become a free flowing channel for that stuff, rather than just going, well, that card means that and and this is what it means. But really, they can be put in such a way that can tell a different story, and really what you feel is I think what we should pick up on. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really good.
It is.
So okay. Tell me a little bit more about what else you use your gift for.
Yeah.
Is it karmic lords or something?
Lords of Karma.
Lords of Tell us about that.
Lords of Karma.
Tell us about that.
You know, on my Reiki journey, discovered lots of different, you know, tools, etc. And one of the tools that I've discovered is working with ascended masters who are Lords of Karma. Beautifully, I've been given the gift to be able to connect in with past lives, and that's something I've discovered in the last few years.
I have no idea who the Lords of Karma are.
Sorry.
So no, don't be sorry. I'm really intrigued, and I would love to know. So could you tell me, like, who are these Lords? Is this something that everybody knows about?
No, well, a lot of people probably have heard them as referred to as the karmic board. So,
I've never heard of that either. The karmic board.
Ascended masters, and they oversee, you know, the laws of Earth, basically.
Oh, so ascended masters. Okay, yes, I'm following you now.
To name a few, you know, like Mother Mary, Saint Germain, Lady Portia, Lord Sananda. There's 12 karmic Lords of Karma who sit on this board. There's a beautiful lady called Diane Stein. She's written some amazing books called Essential Energy Balancing, and she's channeled with the Lords of Karma, and she's channeled processes which allow us to release our karma, basically. Life-changing. So it's been absolutely life-changing.
Tell us a story about how it's been life-changing.
Well, it's, for one, enabled me to release a lot of loops and patterns and karmic cycles. A really huge pattern and cycle for lots of light workers is persecution. So, and I think probably lots of people can relate to that, going through life and feeling as though you're being persecuted, or feeling as though, even though your intention might have been pure, never being understood or never being
validated?
Yeah, I guess
Judged?
so. Yes. Yes. So being able to release that. So when we release the karma attached, it can change your whole reality.
What have you seen happen when the karma's been released? Tell us a story.
A really good one that I like is, so it release your karma. It won't release things from happening. It literally will change the outcome for you. So I've probably lived a lot of my life of not being believed when I've spoke, or, you know, it'll be injustice popping up again and again. And, you know, you've got to start to ask yourself why. If in this life it's been fine, you know, why does this keep coming up? But our reality, current reality is all interconnected with our past reality, and those lifetimes will affect our current lifetime. You know, but being able to release that can absolutely change things. So I think it was last year sometime, I was helping out, volunteering for something. And I came in and I, said, I'm here to help. And a lady sort of come up to me and the lady had come to help, and she said, oh, I don't actually need any help, and got really angry at me. And I just kind of went, oh, here we are again, just, okay.
Coming from a good place.
And I went, okay.
You got resistance straight away.
Yeah. And I was like, okay.
The skids went on.
Yeah. And I knew I had released this stuff. So I was just like, okay. And I sat with it, went and helped somebody else, but she actually came out and apologized.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
that was a really defining moment for me, because I thought in the past it would be, it would just sort of topple on, and then it'd be a thing. But I thought, oh my goodness, like my energy has actually changed, because now she has come up and apologized. And we got along really fine and did lots of lovely work together. So for me, that's been huge. Just releasing, karmic contracts with people, etc. We have contracts that we come into, in this lifetime, and the Lords of Karma allow us to release that. It's the only way that we can do it. We can only release karma while we're in our earth.
Right. So
the dimensional body.
So thinking about the process of that, releasing the karma with the Lords of Karma, for the viewers that are really interested in that, is there a process that you personally go into to put yourself in that space to be able to do it? Is there a little ritual or something like that?
So before I do any of my energy work, I do definitely have a ritual where I connect in, above, below, call in my guides, etc. Ask for full protection. And then I channel, usually before people get there, I'll channel, I'll connect in to know what's my biggest thing that I like to help people with is what's keeping them stuck right now. Because if you think about it, anybody that comes to see a healer, they're clearly stuck. So, they're looking for that guidance.
Yes.
So what I like to do is, show me the source of what's happening.
So you ask your guides
before
they come?
Yeah.
Or even when they've
even if they're there.
What they're stuck for? Yeah.
I always ask for the best of this person at this time, and I'm generally taking it straight to the source.
Yep.
They'll show me where that's come from, whether that's past life or, sometimes it's interplanetary as well, so it can be other planets, etc. And then being able to use the processes to then release them. It can be so life-changing. I always have a bit of a giggle when the analogy or the source that I get shown will be very connected to this day, like the present time. For example, I remember chatting with a friend one day who's also into this, and sometimes as healers we need other people to help us, because when we're involved, sometimes it's hard to read ourselves. So
absolutely,
it's like there's
Definitely.
not one way of healing. So
that's it.
As she'd come to me, she said, "Oh, I'm trying to get to the source of this," and I said, "Okay." And I channeled for her, and I said, "Oh, I can see you in it was like a dungeon type, underground." I said, "There was all rats underneath you, like there were dead rats," and she just cracked up laughing. And she said, "Oh, when I realised there was something else playing out yesterday," she goes, "I only stepped on a dead rat." And then we both laughed, because we know how, the past can absolutely interfere with the present day reality. I could give you hundreds of examples, but it's just quite often people will then giggle and they'll be like, "Oh, that's exactly what's playing out." Or, it's just quite interesting. But I think it's just such a gift to be able to then release it, release the karma. So, and a lot of the time people think that karma is what we've done, in past lives. And I think we've all been light, and I think we've all been dark. I don't think there's a perfect soul on the earth, but karma a lot of the time is the things that have been done to us and that have been embedded in our core soul. So, over and over again. And we just keep repeating it over and over again, which becomes what they call core soul damage. Working with Lords of Karma allows us to release that as souls.
Incredible.
So we can move forward. Yeah.
Very interesting.
It's so interesting.
It is. And so for the viewers now, because we're getting to the end of the interview, perhaps are there any tips or tricks, or we have touched on trust. Is there anything else that perhaps the viewer might like to know to enhance their abilities? Because would you agree, it's all innate within us?
Yeah, absolutely.
Everybody has this ability.
Absolutely.
So what are some ways, or even people that you've come across where it's like, oh, I didn't know and now I do, and this is what I did. Would you like to share?
Let me think about that. I would just say trust yourselves, you know. Trust what comes through. And I even say this when people come to me for readings or advice, you know, I can give you the advice for what I'm channeling, etc. But if it doesn't resonate with you, you need to trust you. And that was a huge lesson for me as well, you know. Just because there might be somebody that's channeling for you doesn't mean that they're right, because you have all the answers within you.
That's it.
You know, and it's just being still enough to listen and notice the signs. And, you know, those random thoughts that come to you quite often is you channeling. Like, I believe everybody can channel. I believe everybody has, you know, the ability to tap into the same gifts that I have. I really do believe that. It's just a lot of people aren't awakened to that as yet. And this is where the kids come through as well, as I believe the kids that are coming through now are way more connected. They're way more connected to source. They are bringing through more information. They're highly sensitive. And this is probably one of the things that put me more on my path was the kids. How can I help them? Do you know? Well, I can help them by helping myself first. And then, you know, listening to the things that they're saying as well.
And you said they're bringing more gifts through, more things through. What types of things are they bringing through? I'm curious to know.
For me, I personally believe, I call them the new kids. How old their souls are doesn't matter, you know, but I believe they're coming through with more DNA strands connected. So many of us...
Because we're meant to have more than two. We're meant to have... Is it 12 or 24?
Well, they say 12, but, you know, what's... anything's infinite, isn't it?
Because there's no junk DNA. This is just a term they've put, and it's not junk DNA.
Yeah, and if you look at some of the theories like, you know, indigo children, rainbow children, etc., they'll talk of these children that have come through. I very much identify with the indigo children. That very much I can identify with that in my mission.
Tell us about indigo children too. What are they? What's the difference?
So they say, I don't know too much about the others, but the indigo, because that just struck a chord with me when I was going through my awakening. Indigo children, they say, have come here to, you know, challenge the way that we do things, to create new ways. So I remember a point in my, you know, journey where I read up about indigo children, and it was like tick, 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 tick. And to be honest, it made my life make so much more sense. It's said that the indigos have come through to, you know, break down those barriers, challenge society, challenge the way that, you know, the cultural conditioning, the way that we do things here. And that's been very much my life, you know, being the person that would stand up for injustice, being the person that would stand up if things didn't feel right to me. So we've kind of come in with a bit of a mission to clear the path, and it's said that we clear the path for those crystal and rainbow children to come through and, you know, come through to share their new ways, to share, you know, their gifts, and be that support for them. So it's amazing things that are coming through, and I think a lot of these kids are very misunderstood. You know, and that's okay. As parents, we do the best that we can, but, you know, it's just understanding that a lot of these kids are not just feeling and not just seeing what is happening on a third dimensional level. They're picking up the other dimensions. Do you know, they don't fit inside society's box. And to be honest, for me, these kids need support. They need to be nurtured. They need to be heard. They need to be understood. Just like I needed that as a child, you know, but I went through my challenges, so then I was able to, you know, clear the path to allow the next lot of, you know, children to come through, and our future, really, isn't it?
It is,
you know?
and it is evolving and changing.
100%.
It truly is. Like education, I believe, will change too. The way that education is currently set up, it will change. It has to, because it doesn't fit anymore.
No, because we're not meant to fit in a box. This is what a lot of these kids are here to teach us. You know, there's lots, without naming them, there's lots of diagnoses out there, but to me, I just think they're vibing at a higher frequency.
Yeah, I've heard that
tapping
too.
In.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. And thank you for watching Breadcrumbs to Blueprints. If you liked this episode, please don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.